Russ. Yeah, I'm back in the car again. 77 degrees outside. Yep, 77 degrees outside. I've already done a couple of videos today trying to get ahead of the curve. Gotta do it. Gotta do it when you have the chance. Yeah, took a bike out and everything. I've been in the car already too. So here I am again, going for a late lunch. Yeah, late lunch today. So anyway, well, let's hit the stop sign here. I was talking to Tom the other day, and he mentioned how he liked watching the More from Russ channel. He says it's kind of fun to listen to you talk and tell us everything. He says, I know, it's like I know more about you now than, if you didn't do the channel. Yeah, sometimes I tell you guys too much stuff. Too much stuff. That's just thoughts, things that come to mind as I'm riding around. You guys keep me company. I like that. So anyway, where am I headed? Where am I always headed? I decided to go to the other Costco this time. Gives us a longer drive time. A little more time to spend in the car. Yep. Anyway, they said it might rain a little bit later. I don't know. Every time it seems like there's a hot weather streak somewhere, rain is predicted. Yep. So you got to do what you got to do when you got to do it. Anyway, I was talking before about things that happen, working in the audio industry and having a retail stereo store back then. And another question came up about that. I know we've been talking about this a lot, but they're interesting questions. Pedro wanted to find out if we got free equipment. Guy's pulling out in front of me, turning into his driveway. If we got free equipment to test out equipment, how would we know what equipment to carry in the store? Carry. That's what we always called it. You carry it in your store. No, you didn't get free equipment, but you got free loaners, which you had to give back. All right. So what happens is there's manufacturers' representatives, right? The electronic manufacturer representatives. They usually represent multiple lines of equipment, and so they would come to your store and say, "Hey, we got this product line we'd like you to consider." And then you'd say, "Okay, give me the spec sheets." You always looked at the spec sheets. And then, do you have any rep samples for us to try out? So they would leave equipment for you to try out, and then you would have to return it when you were done. Now, where do these rep samples come from? The rep companies, I believe, have to buy them. Yeah. So they buy them at an extremely low price, of course. I think they get them lower than dealer cost. And then they bring them around to show to the different dealers, hoping that the dealers will order, because they get a commission when you place the order. So obviously manufacturers can't go and hit every single retail store that's out there. So they hire rep firms to represent them. And a lot of the rep firms are companies that handle more than just one product line. So maybe the guy has a couple of speaker lines, a couple of electronic lines, some accessory lines, and then they bring them around and hope that you carry the product. Yeah. So the whole thing with the businesses back then in retailing, we get a certain percentage off. I won't mention, but most people know it's a significant number, because you have to discount them sometimes, and you still got to be able to make some money if you discount them. I mean, if you're buying it for 10% off and you're selling it at 8% off, you're not making anything, right? No, we get a certain percentage off as a retailer, and then you try to maintain as high of a profit margin as you can, but sometimes you have to discount it. Now, other products, for instance, especially in the high end, you don't get quite the percentage discount as maybe some mainstream type products. Mainstream, I mean, the average hi-fi stuff, but those products are always discounted, so you don't really make that much on them anyway, because you got to discount it to compete against all the other stores that sell it, or the different retailers that sell it. I'm talking things like Techniques and Pioneer and things like that, companies way back then, you might remember. But you might have some higher end product line that might not have quite the margin, but you have almost an exclusive territory for it. So you can usually sell it pretty much for what it retails for, because they can't get it anywhere else except through you, right? So you have to kind of weigh the factors. Now, another question came up as to, I think it was for Polk Audio, right? And I remember, eventually Polk Audio became pretty popular, right? It was kind of a desired speaker that was not very expensive, but higher quality sound quality. I remember seeing Polk Audio when Polk Audio was just starting out, and had a chance to talk to Matthew Polk, who's the designer. He eventually sold the company. I don't even know if Matthew Polk is still alive now, but anyways, I remember speaking with him, and the first thing he asked was, what other speaker lines do you have? That's a good question. I mean, he wants to know what are our speakers going to compete against in your store? What electronic lines do you have? Because he wants to know what are you going to pair it up with, and how much are you willing to spend? He didn't say it that way, but they have a very high buy-in. So essentially, if you want their line, you've got to buy X amount of product in order to have inventory to sell, and they want a lot of it. Another company that asked us for a lot of money too was Audio Research. I don't know if you guys are familiar with some of these audiophile product lines. Audio Research came knocking at our door through one of our representatives who had worked with us for many, many years. He had picked up Audio Research, so he says, well, let me leave some of the Audio Research product here for you to evaluate. Yeah, you didn't have to really do that. We know what the product is. I mean, it's got a reputation, right? But he left it there. And but again, the buy-in was very hefty. Not that you needed lots of the product to carry. They would expect you to carry one of everything, and then one in the back room to sell. So you have one demo and one backup, right? That doesn't sound like too much. I mean, they don't have too many products in the line, but this is very expensive product, okay? So you were talking probably close to $20,000 or more back then in late 70s, early 80s, just to be able to represent their line. Now, the problem with Audio Research is you need other products to go along with it to make it worth, even demonstrating. I mean, you wouldn't put an Audio Research amplifier and preamp with something that's only a $200 speaker. It wouldn't make any sense, right? So you need other products to go with it. So here's an interesting story with Soda turntables. I mentioned Soda a couple times. Soda turntables, at that time, was a guy named Robert Becker, who was in charge of the marketing end. David Fletcher is the guy, I think, who designed the Soda Sapphire turntable. They called it the Sapphire because their bearing was made with a sapphire. Yeah. And then eventually we also had one called the Star Sapphire, which was their vacuum pump turntable. It sucks the record to the platter, so it makes it essentially a really heavy record. Keeps all the vibrations and everything down and out of it. Well, at the time, we didn't have any very expensive turntables to sell. We had things like Ariston. I don't know if you're familiar with some of these brands. We had Denon, Ariston. I don't know if we had the Mitchell turntables or not. I can't remember. We had a couple, and then of course the standard Techniques and all these other tables and stuff too, Denon tables and Hitachi and some other brands, basic brands. But we went to the Consumer Electronics Show, and I met with Robert Becker, and he was asking us about the equipment that we currently had, and I told him, and he told us he wasn't really interested in setting up any additional dealers. The reality is that he probably didn't think we had equipment high enough to be able to sell a soda turntable. Because the soda turntables at that time, I think, were about $1,500 without an arm. Then you add an arm to it. The least expensive arm that was good that we would be able to match with it would probably be the Premier MMT tone arm, which I think was a S-shaped tone arm. And then, of course, whatever cartridges you had, Subico or some other brand, Grado, whatever you sell with it. And so he said, no, we have too many dealers already. They only had 2 in Chicago. I'm not interested. I go, great. We came all the way to take a look at their product, and they're not even wanting to talk to us. So I told them off. I'm a guy in like low 20s. I don't know how old it was, maybe 22, 23. I don't know how old it was. I says, well, it sounds like you. I told him, I says, it sounds like you guys really don't want to deal with us because we don't have the proper equipment, and obviously we feel we could do a good job selling a product like this because we really kind of desperately need something good. And I thought that this was a good product to be able to do, but if you're not interested, then fine. So we left. My brother and I just walked out after I told him off, and he comes out and says, you guys, come back here. So we came back, and he says, you are our next soda turntable dealers. I go, what? You just basically told us we weren't good enough. He goes, no, I want somebody who could actually have some heart about selling the product and fully understand what we do. And you guys obviously have that. So we would love to have you as the next soda turntable dealer here in Chicago. So there was only 3 of us. I think at the time there was a company called Paul Heath Audio. And then Quintessence Audio, I think, also had it, if I'm not mistaken. Quintessence Audio is still in business. I don't know whether they still carry it or not. I don't know if Quintessence had it. Somebody had it. One other guy, and then us. So the 3 of us sold soda turntables in Chicago, and for a big market like Chicago, to have only 3 dealers do it, you had to be good. So we sold quite a number of soda turntables and tone arms. I believe the most expensive option we had was something like a $1,500 Star Sapphire turntable back then, with a $1,200 Sumico The Arm. I think that was $1,200, yeah. And then we would match it up to whichever cartridge they felt they wanted. Some people would match it up with, some Grado product. Some would match it up with Sumico product. They had different cartridge lines, I think, within the Sumico distribution area. Dynavector, whatever they wanted. So really, you're talking a turntable, cartridge, and arm that would be $3,000 to $3,300. That's pretty expensive back in, I would say, 1984 time period, something like that, right? 83, 84, something like that. And so I asked my Alexa unit, how much is $3,200 worth from 1984 time period to today's dollar amount. And it's close to $10,000 in today's market. So if you think about it, these are some very expensive products, and yet we sold a number of tables. So it kind of goes to show you that if you do things right, there are people who will buy these type of products. Even today, people still buy it. I mean, otherwise these high-end audio manufacturers wouldn't be around still, right? And yet they are. So there are people who have the ability to spend that kind of money on audio products. I mean, think about some of the current high-end audiophiles type products out there. You're talking very expensive speakers, very expensive electronics, and yet people buy it, right? Not the average guy could spend that kind of money. So yeah, it's interesting. I've always said if there was still a market for the general public, not just the extreme audiophile type people that still had interest in that stuff, I'd probably still be in that industry. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I think if we didn't see the writing on the wall that it was coming to an end eventually, we probably still would be doing that. I probably would still have been in Chicago continuing as an audio retailer. I have to give credit to those companies that have still stuck it out and still gone strong, but I think the only reason they made it is because they sold high-end audio gear. They didn't sell the lower price products. And those type of product lines will always maintain because there are people who will spend the money for things like that, and things like the economy doesn't affect them quite as much, right? So there you have it. I wouldn't be riding an e-bike right now. I'd be selling stereo gear. Yep. Anyways, I'm close to where I need to be. So, hey, if you like this story and this revelation of high-end audio, hit the like and subscribe button. Put a comment below. Let me know what you think about this stuff. You know, if you want to see some very expensive equipment, yeah, go to the Russ is Right channel. Take a look at that Axpona video I did. AXPONA. Just search Russ is Right AXPONA, and I'm sure it will come up on YouTube. Take a look at some of the gear. It'll kind of surprise you. I mean, we're talking big dollar gear. Yeah, big dollars. I can't afford it. I don't know how these people can, but they do. You know, would you spend $20,000 on a turntable? How about $100,000 on a pair of speakers? People do it. Talk to you guys next time.